Welcome everyone for tuning in. My name is Manny Akutiel, and thank you for tuning into Manny's Super Civic Cyber Conversations. Manny's is a physical space in San Francisco in the Mission District. Unfortunately, we had to close because of shelter in place, but just because the physical place is shut does not mean that the work is over. And so we are bringing to you live civic programming every single day during all this to keep you informed and engaged and inspired. And today, we are so lucky and honored to be in conversation with the city administrator, Naomi Kelly. Before we start, I just want to let you know if you have a question for Naomi Kelly, you can type it into the Q&A box at any time. If you're liking this conversation, go ahead and screenshot it and tag us at Welcome to Manny. All right, let's get right into it. So you're the city administrator. Actually, Sam, do you want to, in the chat box, put the organizational chart of the city so folks who are tuning in know all the crazy stuff that Naomi is responsible for? Operator?
Doing now.
Great, awesome. So if you're wondering who is this amazing person that I'm talking to, in the chat, you'll see the city's organizational chart and you'll see all the things that Naomi does. Okay, so Naomi, let's just talk about your role first to set some context. So obviously you and I had a conversation a couple of weeks ago, or seems like decades ago, about how much you're responsible for. So what is your current role in the government? What are the things you're overseeing and how has it shifted with all this?
Well, it hasn't really shifted, but it really highlights one of the key roles that has always been under the city administrator, and that's really overseeing the majority of the logistics of an emergency operation. But, just in general, the city administrator oversees, the back office, purchasing, real estate, risk management, all the insurance, all of our labor standards and enforcements, our fleet, just reprographic and mail services, which who would have thought how our mail is being delivered during this pandemic is a top priority and making sure everyone's safe. To basic departments that deal a lot in operations, the medical examiner, animal care and control, the Department of Public Works, the Entertainment Commission, Moscone, where I am right now, which we have converted into the Emergency Operations Center. And then a lot in between, 311, which everyone is calling 311 right now for basic information, the county clerk, the grants for the arts, Office of Civic Engagement and Immigrant Rights, and many more.
Yes, I know you have a very wide-ranging job. Let's talk about the logistics, first of all. Actually, before we get to that, I'm interested in the mail thing. So how has our mail carrying and mail operation system shifted or changed at all during this crisis?
Well, obviously, everyone's wearing gloves when touching the mail. And as you can imagine that we've all shifted, many of us have shifted to telecommuting who are in offices. Clearly, our operational crews, our bus drivers, those who still have to deliver essential services to government are still out there in the streets. But for those of us who work in offices, many have shifted to telecommuting. So we have one point of delivery and pickup, and doing it in a safe way where we are collecting it at one spot instead of delivering to everyone's office. It's kind of sitting there for a day or, until, whatever it can air out, for lack of a better word, and then we deliver it to the appropriate departments.
I see. So let's talk about logistics. I mean, this must be just a logistical, the logistics are so important right now. So tell me about the Emergency Operations Center. What is happening in the Emergency Operations Center where you are now? Kind of what does that coordination look like? And like, what does a typical day in the Emergency Operations Center look and feel like?
Well, first of all, I'll start from when this first started happening. The city's EOC is actually at 1011 Turk, and that was built because we thought the big emergency that we would be dealing with is an earthquake, since we live in earthquake country, or a big fire. And with this pandemic, we instantly realized, with the number of us in there, that there wasn't enough space in there for us to social distance appropriately 6 feet apart. So unfortunately and fortunately, Moscone, many of the conventions were canceling due to COVID-19, and this building was sitting empty. So it allowed us to move the EOC, the Emergency Operations Center, and the Department of Emergency Management, run by Mary Ellen Carroll. It allowed us to merge the Department of Public Health Departmental Operations Center to the Human Service Agency's Departmental Operations Center, plus many more, the Emergency Logistics, our Operations Center, our Joint Information Committees, all of us. There is at any given time about 300 to 400 people coming in and out of here, but the place is so large it allows us to social distance, allows us to come in different entrances, exit different ways, have enough space in between us where we can get work done, yet be around each other. So that was the first thing. Then we get into purchasing scarce protective equipment, personal protective equipment. And that is a huge operations. And I can go on, we can talk about that later in the show, like what our challenges are in purchasing on an international market. When you don't have the federal government doing it or coordinating it, we are doing it independently and trying to work collaboratively with our regional partners and with the state.
Can I just ask about that? I mean, like, obviously, like, the city's not going on Amazon and, like, typing in, like, protective masks, right? And, like, I know the governor is in a little hot water because he just inked a $500 million deal with China to buy masks, you know, which a lot of people have feelings about. Like, how does a place like San Francisco procure something like masks? Like, what is the process for that?
Well, we have the Department of Public Health has a strong purchasing team, and we also have the Office of Contract Administration and Purchasing that's very strong in helping the Department of Public Health out. I mean, in typical with commodities, you put a bid out there and you see who your suppliers, your authorized resellers are of different products. You know, 3M has authorized resellers. I'm sure you've seen a lot of news articles about 3M, and there's a lot of suppliers out there, and we go and get quotes. What we're seeing, which is, and usually you just put the quote out and then they give you a delivery date and it comes. What we're seeing right now in the market, and we're not alone in San Francisco, and every local municipality, every state, every hospital is dealing with this, that you have a typical commodities chain. And you have a manufacturer that usually is in China or Southeast Asia somewhere, who then sells to a distributor wherever in your country, who then sells to an authorized reseller, who then gets the product to the end user. At various parts of this manufacturing chain or commodities chain, it is broken or something bad has gone wrong. Whether it's China, who has slowed down the export of the product, to bad actors out there who are diverting your product and selling it to a higher bidder, to changing the product. You ordered a certain medical grade thing and then what comes up is not medical grade.
And that's happening?
Oh, yes. And it's happening across the country. It's happening everywhere. So I have to say the ladies in my purchasing department can sniff out a bad actor anywhere. And so we have stopped purchases. We haven't lost any money. We have been right on top of it when we recognize that we have a lot of scam artists who are trying to sell us PPEs, and we have a very good vetting team. And it's delved into the international market. We have great suppliers who are vetting for us. We have great teams who are vetting here in the U.S. But it's almost like an international intrigue. You know, at one point I almost felt like I was an international drug trafficker.
Oh my God.
Felt that way, was like trying to figure out airplanes to pick up like certain supplies to get them here because it was in such desperate need.
Holy moly.
And I'm not trafficking drugs by any stretch of the imagination.
Yes, we know that.
As commodity. So
I mean, it is great, I have to say, because of course you were a city purchaser for a while, and you've been in city government and city administration now for quite a while. And so you are probably the most qualified person in this crisis to actually managing all these departments, because you've been in the belly of the beast already for decades. And you were the city purchaser for a while, right?
That is correct. Yeah, for 7 years was the city purchaser. I have to say, I've never experienced anything like this. This is not, buying a mask is not the most complex or complicated purchase you would think, but just the international market and so many bad actors have made it so complicated. It's not like buying a fire truck. It's like 250 pages of technical specs. It is, here is the mask and the serial in the series that we need. The manufacturing number.
Right.
It should be easy, but it has not been.
So so I want to ask you about, and this is a hard question, but you oversee many, many departments, over multiple dozens of departments and commissions and areas. Which pieces of the city fabric and infrastructure are having the toughest time right now? If you can give us a sense, you have this bird's eye view of our city government, right? You and the mayor really alone have this like 30,000 foot view. Which pieces of our city are requiring the most TLC right now?
Oh, it's, I think it's what we're all reading about. It is, what is the right thing that no one has a playbook on this pandemic because they've never seen a virus act this way before. Most viruses, just from what we get influenza A, which we all are familiar with. It's the young are vulnerable, the older are vulnerable, and it plays itself out. This virus is spreading, and it's spreading quickly. And so how do we, I think, stop the spread, contain it, and it doesn't make sense. It's going after the older, it's going after folks with who are perfectly healthy and doesn't have any, it's just different. So I think we are struggling with what are the policies to contain it. At the same time, as you can see right now, folks are getting cabin fever. They're ready to get out. The economics around this is just devastating. And so we're trying to put, I think the struggle is trying to get those methods in place so that we can contain this virus sooner rather than later, so that we can get out and like resume our lives. If they won't be the same, because I can imagine I'll be social distancing for quite a while, even when the shelter in place is lifted, and washing my hands a lot more than I previously did. So
I have to say, I'm nervous about that. And so I want to talk about recovery for a bit, because part of me feels almost like this was the easy part. Yes, there was cabin fever, but a lot of people now are talking about a long and slow and awkward recovery. I went to Manny's today for the first time in a while, and I looked around and I was like, damn, 6 feet apart. How am I going to do this? I mean, I don't even have that many 6 feet apart, spaces. San Francisco is not known for giant ground floor commercial retail spaces. So how far ahead is the city in its planning process for what the recovery looks like?
Well, the mayor just announced a economic recovery task force that will be chaired by our fabulous assessor recorder, Carmen Chu, our treasurer tax collector, Jose Cisneros, the president of the Chamber of Commerce, Rodney Fong, and the head of our labor council, Rudy Gonzalez. I have an opportunity to sit on that council because I also oversee the Office of Resilience and Capital Planning, and we had just literally in February kicked off our first recovery framework meeting to talk about recovery after a disaster, and lo and behold, COVID-19 hits. As I'm thinking, like for a place like Manny's and things that like restaurants will probably be thinking about in the future, touchless cash handling. When you go to Pete's and you can wave or Starbucks and you can wave your phone over the scanner and pay the bill. Is that possible there at the bar or at the restaurant? You're lucky being there at Manny's that you have you don't have one interest that is the entrance and exit at the same time. So you can have an entrance on one end and the exit on another hand. So you don't have too many choke points. You can have an entrance and exit. Hand washing, having sanitizer around, even if there's a shortage on Purell. The good news is the bars can make sanitizer, and public health put out a recipe for those bars that have certain types of vodka and certain types of flow that can make sanitizer in case there's a shortage on that again. And have it around. There's, and to the extent you can, social distance. Maybe wear packing in as many as we would like. But just I think those are things we got to think about. That's our new normal.
I
Because
mean, I
if
think, go
go ahead,
ahead, please. No, please.
we don't have a vaccination to this, so I think this will be with us at least for. I mean, I don't think we'll be sheltering in place this long, but in February they said the vaccination won't be ready for another 18 months. So
Hmm.
we do need to think about this for this short term. What do we do for the next 18 months?
I mean, I have to say, the not knowing is probably the hardest part. Do you know when the mayor is going to make an announcement about whether or not shelter in place is going to be extended or not?
It'd be the health officer who's making that determination, and I believe he is having those conversations with the mayor right now, because
Hmm.
third or fourth is around the corner. So we got to get,
Right. I know
yeah.
my employees are calling me and saying, all right, what's next? Like, what are we going to do? And I don't know what to tell them, so do you think that's going to come soon?
It has to. If not, by the end of this week, early next week, we'll be hearing from the health officer and the mayor about an order. Not that I'm not in the know on this. The health officer is clearly making that determination, but just based off of that, we're kind of in the peak right now. I can see this being extended a bit, and I think
Hmm.
it's a responsible thing to extend it a bit more. Now, how long it will be extended, I don't know, but uh,
Hmm.
I,
One of the things that you also oversee, Naomi, is city employees. How many people does the city employ currently, and has the city started to think about whether or not it's going to need to lay people off?
well, right now we're not talking about layoffs right now. Right now we're just trying to solve for our current year budget
Yeah.
deficit, which we're not, and it's not a layoff conversation. It is a hiring freeze conversation. We are not
Hmm.
hiring anyone who is not essential to basic government operations right now.
Yeah.
We are pausing on capital projects that we have not begun, and
Are there
so.
any in particular?
Oh, it's like a lot of cause you know there's maybe some. I'm trying to think right off the bat. A lot of my stuff is HVACs and cooling.
Really, very
Cooling,
sexy.
yeah, the very sexy stuff until it gets hot or cold and your air conditioning's not working or your heater's not working. Then everybody's mad at that person, me. But it's pausing on like yes, I got it. Tenant improvements in office buildings, right?
Mhm.
We won't have the new cubicles or the new furniture or the new, it's pausing on those tenants improvements. We've had a lot of moves coming up in scheduling,
Mhm.
especially in moving offices out of the Hall of Justice, the DA, adult probation, because that building
Mhm.
is technically unsafe. But we've paused on just kind of tenant improvements for some of those offices that are left there.
What about
And
the big new planning department on Van Ness? Is that going
yes,
to be
we're
paused?
staff and as we are moving forward with that project because we
Okay.
sold the buildings that Public Works and Planning and DBI are located in. And so we can't have those essential offices homeless, for lack of a better word. They are essential
Hmm.
to our operations of government. So that project is moving forward. It's probably delayed a bit because of
Hmm.
productivity has gone down and doing construction in this social distancing a manner. But we plan to move in there. The good question back to what you're talking about is when we originally started planning for that building, we had a lot of shared workstations,
Right.
cubicles coming in. So we are literally this week thinking through how do we return our employees to work in an office setting. Uh,
Right.
what do we have staggered schedules? It's clear now that we can telecommute.
Right.
How do we deal with our break rooms? How do we deal with our common areas? How do we deal with our kitchen areas? So we are, planning and thinking through that, and we'll actually think it through with my fellow colleagues in the other counties, the other county managers too, and as we start to prepare for our workforce returning to work.
So thank you for answering those questions, Naomi. If you have questions for Naomi, Kelly, the city administrator, you can type them in now. I'm trying to see if Harlan's still here, but I don't see him in the attendees list. We may have lost him, which I apologize, Harlan. Please, I hope he's not angry at me.
Not at all. I need to get
I,
him. He needs his own show with you to talk about water, sewer, and power.
I'll just ask you, do you know if any of that stuff is in danger, or are there going to be any changes
Are
to
they
that?
to the water, sewer, and power?
I mean, like, I don't know, like, I guess, people are talking a little bit about supply chain issues with food. Are there any supply chain issues with, oh, he is here. Hey, Harlan, can you raise your hand and we'll bring you? Okay, let's bring him in, operator. We'll just ask him one quick question. And in the meantime, if you have questions for Naomi, you can type them in. He does need his own show. I don't want him to take your spotlight, but I'll ask him about the PUC real quick since he's here.
Now.
All right, Harlan.
How you doing?
I'm good. Can you tell we have a bunch of people listening. Can you tell people real quick what you do for the cities, understand who you are for those who don't know?
How you doing?
I'm great. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Amazing. Good to see your wonderful face. Do you mind telling people what you do real quick so people know who you are before I ask you real quick about how things are going with water, power, and sewer?
Oh, my name is Harlan Kelly, and I'm the general manager of the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission. And we are responsible for delivering water to San Francisco and a larger part of the Bay Area. We are also provided of, receiving all the water people use, storm water. We bring it to our treatment plants, treat it, release it to the bay and the ocean. And then from our water system, 3,000 feet above us in the Sierra Mountains, we bring the water and generate hydropower. And we deliver power to a lot of city facilities, Treasure Island, Hunters Point. So we're also in the power business. So that's what we do.
Got it. Thank you for popping on this call. I feel so lucky to get both of the Kellys. My question to you is just how your operation, a very large operation, extremely essential and important, has been affected by the pandemic and the crisis. How has our power, sewer, and water distribution systems been affected by COVID?
Yeah, our operations is just really incredible that our staff has been able to adapt. We have, as you know, essential services. So a lot of our facilities are, occupied by our staff. So we had to really determine how to make those staff safe in those buildings. So that was something that we really focused on. And then for a lot of folks who can perform their work offsite, we had to all of a sudden get computers and so that they can telecommute and get bandwidth so that they can hook up to our system. So that has been definitely an experience. And then for folks who are working on other things that are hard to do remotely, they've been working with the city as disaster service workers, and they've been helping the city. So we have really responded well as providing these essential services. However, there has been some challenges financially because although we're an enterprise department, a lot of the hotel industry, convention facilities that use water, wastewater and power, that's down. And so we've been looking at ways to help businesses that are still in business, and also residents. How can we help them reduce the price of our water and wastewater services? So we've been looking at that as well.
My only last question to you is there anything that you're asking San Francisco residents to do in terms of their behavior and their consumption patterns to assist you with your work?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is that this whole toilet paper shortage, one would think that we are in good business because everyone's buying toilet paper. But the problem is that few people are hoarding toilet paper. So people are getting wipes, and they're using wipes and they're flushing it down the toilets. That's not a good thing to do.
No.
That's clogging the whole system. Although it says flushable, it's not flushable.
Wipes. It says flushable. Hold on, I'm gonna show you.
Oh no!
We know who has the flushable wipe.
Yeah, we're gonna send the police to your house.
Okay.
PUC police.
Not only does it say flushable, but it says tested by plumbers.
Yeah,
See?
yeah. So we have this whole campaign against that because it's not really.
Look, there's a plumber on it. He has a plumber's wrench.
I know.
You're saying
Absolutely.
This is not
wrong
not
thing
kosher?
to do. Wrong
Tested by plumbers.
Yes.
You're gonna have to take this up with Cottonelle.
You know why? Because they want to come to your house and unplug them.
Okay, so wipes are not good to do.
Just the 3 P's, as we say: poop, pee, and toilet paper.
Poop, pee, and toilet paper. What about beef or bidet?
Oh, yeah, bidet is even better.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Well, I'm so glad. If everyone that's tuned in, you heard it from Harlan himself. He's the authority on this. Don't use wipes, use a bidet, or use paper. Great. Okay, Harlan, we're back to actually, why don't we keep Harlan on in case there's questions for you in the PC? Is that okay? We only have about 5 minutes left in it. All right, let's get to your questions. Clifford Waldeck is very excited to see you, Harlan. All right. Lainey asks, what are the most likely scenarios that you are prioritizing and planning for relaxing shelter in place? Can you give us a sense of likely timing and what we can expect? What are the hurdles that you are watching for?
Oh, well, with the shelter in place, obviously it'll be a gradual lift of that shelter in place. So we're just waiting for the experts from the Department of Public Health to kind of think through this. And like I said earlier, we are looking through how do we return our workforce to work safely? How do we return, getting our children outside to exercise? How do we get our construction? Harlan has actually done a lot of the work around construction and the social distancing that construction crews must follow, and health and safety site plans that they must follow. That can we do more construction outside, if not, than inside? So we're thinking through all of that, but really it has to be led by the Department of Public Health on the data on making sure that we contain the spread of COVID-19. But like I said, we're thinking through our operations on the long haul, making sure, I think I saw in the chat, like making sure we have a safe elections. I know that elections.
Is that happening? Going to have an election in November in the city, or what's going on?
We're going to have an election in November, and I know our director of elections, John Arts, is thinking that through on how do we count ballots in a safe way, because even if we mail our ballots in, you have to have a whole crew of people counting them, and can we social distance apart, but yet have the public see us count ballots so that it's not behind closed doors. And so how do we do that in a way? And we're thinking that through right now with our director of elections for November. So we are, we have a lot of planning to do, but we're thinking about it.
Harlan, Naomi just mentioned something about construction and disaster construction. I know there was a lot of sewer updating and maintenance that was scheduled to happen. What's going on with all of that?
So as the public health officer has declared essential work, and even the governor and all across the country, essential work, it can continue. And so as it relates to housing and any type of construction, we wanted to work with the unions, the contractors, and the trades associations, and to make sure that the workers are safe while doing this work. So we worked with those 3 groups to come up with some guidelines that will make sure that folks are safe while working. So some of the criteria we are requiring that we brought through Naomi to the public health officer is to make sure that every site has a health and safety plan, because each site is unique. And so we wanted to do that, and they have to address, hand washing stations, how do they handle tools, do they have the proper PPEs, and it kind of list goes on. But we want to make sure that if folks are working, no matter what they're working on, or, even in the future, as they relax the type of construction, we want to make sure that people are safe, because we have the same type of workers working on, critical infrastructure, and we're applying those to our staff starting tomorrow. Starting tomorrow, we're going to have mandatory temperature checking at our facilities.
Wow.
Because, you know, some of our facilities, we have crucial people, like at the wastewater treatment plant. We have, you know, operators of our treatment plants who are licensed. We have very few of them. So if they start getting sick and someone is tested positive and we have to quarantine.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
I guess the internet at our house is not working too well.
Our people safe.
Got it. Okay, Naomi, I have one or two more questions for you. Thank you for that, Harlan. I appreciate it. This is so great. I love this. Question for you is about homeless. Are you overseeing the work to move not just homeless but frontline health workers or folks, vulnerable populations, into hotels? And how's that going?
No, I don't oversee it, but I play a supporting role. There's a group of folks, whether it's a service agency or the housing and supportive, homeless and supportive housing group with Abigail Stewart-Kahn and Trent Rohr and Mary Ellen Carroll and Dr. Colfax. We are all working to try and stop the spread of COVID-19 in the congregate settings, and particularly in the homeless areas. Where we're providing support is either through PPEs, because if we're going to have folks go in and staff these hotels, they need the appropriate level of PPEs, because there could be a lot of folks, even if they're not COVID positive, who are homeless, they are definitely persons under investigation. And so we want to protect all of those who are going in there. We want to make sure this is a population that sometimes has underlying health issues, whether it's mental health or substance abuse, who may not naturally and respect the 6-foot social distancing. So making sure we put in physical barriers so that we can safely interface with each other, making sure that we're training everyone how to wear their PPEs appropriately, making sure we train folks who are not naturally used to helping out with the homeless population, how to de-escalate, because many of the homeless, you feel bad because it's not like they wanted to be homeless. There's been some underlying event that happened in their life that like led down this path, and how do we de-escalate in a very human and compassionate way. And then making sure that, you know, that we are making sure our sites are safe, they get the adequate training and the adequate PPE. So that was my role in all of that. But, you know, making sure that we contain the spread in these congregate settings is definitely the #1 priority over these last weeks.
Got it. Okay. I know we have to end soon, so I'm going to ask you one last suite of questions, and they're associated. Corey asked the question about being a tech worker. Corey still has their job, but wants to be helpful, wants to contribute their skill set outside of just staying employed. And so the question from Corey, which is saying is a broader question, is how can people contribute skills to the city's recovery? And then the second question is from Matthew, and that's about how can people help with the city's response and recover from the crisis. Specifically, how can they make a donation, a financial contribution to the city's recovery?
Excellent, and thank you for that question, Matthew. So we set up a program. The city administrator actually set it up during the wildfires, a program called Give to SF. And it's a way in which folks can contribute to the city and get a monetary donation to the city, and also in-kind goods and get a tax donation. It's a, gosh, what is it, a 170C1 away. And through the mayoral's declaration, she authorized the city controller and the city administrator and the director of BEM to approve these sources and uses of funds that help with food security, where we can give grocery gift cards out to folks who are insecure with food, low-income workers, seniors, immigrant populations, helps with small business loans and workers who are struggling right now with flexible loans and grants to help with the situation, help with housing. You know, many folks, again, who in these categories are having a hard time making rent, pay utility bills, pay their mortgage. And so we so far have raised, and so if you want to contribute, In addition, if you want to give to a 501c3 partner, we partner with the San Francisco Foundation, where you can either give there or give to the city, but it's all going for the same purpose. And we strongly encourage that. So far to date, we've raised about $10.5 million.
Yay!
I know.
That's a lot of money.
I got to give a big
Amazing.
I got to give a big shout out to Matthew Budeau. I'm not sure if he's the one who prompted me for
I'm not
this.
going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you. It may be him. It may not be him.
But he has really done the heavy lifting to bring in those dollars. And so far, we've distributed $2.5 million for food security. We've distributed $2.1 million for small business support and worker support, and another $750,000 for housing. We're also accepting in-kind donations because, as you know, tomorrow we are the facial covering health order, mandatory facial covering health order will be enforced. But we don't want to enforce with like writing people tickets, especially if you're in this vulnerable population. So we want folks who have like made their own cloth masks, donate them. If you have access to a whole bunch of isolation masks, donate them, because we'd rather have the police and the paramedics and the firefighters and our enforcement crews saying, hey, you're not covering up, here's a mask. We want to lead that way. So and it's important that we cover up with our facial covering when we're outside, because it's also part of the tools to help contain the spread of the virus. But we're taking in-kind donations and we're taking cash.
Got it. And right now, if you have like, there's not really a place to get involved in that at this particular moment, right?
So there is right now we have a program called Civic Bridge, and if you are interested in that, please email me. A woman by the name of Dee Prasada is overseeing that program, and that's where we pair skills with and it's barely a gap in skills. Like if we don't have the skill here, or we need more hands on deck, this Civic Bridge is helping us add skills to help us respond to the coronavirus and just any other pains or choke points that we have within just city operations. So it may not just be coronavirus response, but also like just basic operations of government. So
got it.
Would love to connect with that.
So Corey, you might email me and I'll.
Uh-oh. We lost connection. Manny, we lost connection.
Are you there?
Quick plug for Manny's. Oh, did I mute myself?
I think your connection went out a bit. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, so Corey, was Corey, and then
Corey, I gave you my email. I'll connect you to Naomi. Naomi will connect you to Civic Bridge, and we'll make one big connection. I just want to ask everyone, if you are able to, please consider becoming a sponsor of Manny's. The link is in the chat box. It's joinit.org/o/Manny's. It's $36 a month, and it's exactly what we need in order to stay open. And well, we're not open, but to reopen and make it through this recovery. So if you are able, please consider going to joinit.org/o/Manny's to become a sponsor of my small business and help support us as we try to make it through this time. I also want to thank our team, Jupiter, Ram, and Sam, for powering these calls and making them all happen. Many people who joined this conversation, for being informed members of this city and Bay Area. We're all in this together. And finally, I want to send a huge thank you to Harlan and Naomi Kelly for leading our city with such strength and ability during this time of crisis. So Harlan, we thank you both so very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye, both of you.
Bye.
Thank you, Naomi. You're the best. Thank you both.
All right.